Man, there's been a lot of RWBY news lately. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like you have a drought, a dry spell of RWBY news, and then all of it occurs at once. Here's what's going on with this report. From Nienet, Rooster Teeth threatens lawsuit against safe/not-safe RWBY MMD YouTuber. This report comes from my buddy GameWizard02, who generously contributed this piece, and he will be joining us as a contributor henceforth. He's a very good guy. I'm glad that he is joining the team. I have somewhat loosely worked with him through Twitter. He's very good at finding topics, and he's helped me out a lot already. So very glad that he worked on this with me. Let's see what he says. And by worked on this with me, I mean he wrote this whole thing, and I kind of just asked him. So all full credit to GameWizard02. The report says, from Sony to Paramount to Naughty Dog and various other companies, it has become no secret that a lot of big tech companies have been abusing the copyright system for their own ends. However, this is about Rooster Teeth. WNS MMD is a content creator on YouTube who makes, let's actually highlight this, WSMMD, that's what we're talking about here. Content creator on YouTube who makes Miku Miku Dance MMD videos, both safe and not safe, mainly centered around Weiss and Winter Schnee, with other RWBY characters thrown in the mix. A true man of culture, if there ever was one. However, it seems his fan-made videos have caught the attention of Rooster Teeth, who have seemingly decided that they want to try and chase away what little goodwill they have left with their fans. Oof, GameWizard02 being quite savage there. And by the way, you might have noticed that I had to include my overlay periodically in that part of the video we just went over. That's because that picture of Weiss is a bit much to show, and I want to be sure that everything's fine, everything's okay. Also, this next part I'm going to paraphrase, and then I'll bring the screen back up. So the next part of the report says, WSMMD, that YouTuber, went to a RWBY subreddit and posted the following statement, a message from a not safe creator. First of all, I was not sure if I should post or talk about this on here. I thought about it for more than 2 weeks. First, some basics. I make content about RWBY, mainly MMD videos. This includes safe, not safe, dancing, etc. Here's the channel link, and here is an image. It all starts on June 26th. I received a total of 213 emails from YouTube. Whoa! To tell me my video are blocked, all come from Rooster Teeth. The reason is RWBY retainer asset. So here is now the apparent timeline of events, of everything that occurred in this situation. He gets the claims on all those videos that we went over, and apparently he starts disputing some of them, or at least one of them. Here we see an image of one of the disputes. He disputed it on June 27th, 2020. You can see copyright owners, Rooster Teeth LLC, they claim here, and they claim the video, it's blocked, and there you go. So now that said, to be fair to Rooster Teeth, it looks like they at least did not issue a strike. Channel impact not affected. They went out of their way not to give a strike, so let's acknowledge that. Rooster Teeth, they could have struck this guy. I'm not saying that they would have merit to do so. I'm not saying it would be a good choice. I'm just saying that they could have done that, and they didn't. Still, the situation seems very messy. Let's continue. Originally, he thought that the copyright was some overzealous fans that just didn't like the work or something, so it looks like he emails Rooster Teeth. And that takes us to this. Says, first of all, I would like to apologize for my English in this letter because English is not my first language, and that is part of why I'm going to paraphrase this. He basically sends YouTube his channel. He says he received many content ID claims from Rooster Teeth, your company. The reasons are as follows, RWBY retainer asset, just like that. And he says, I want to confirm whether your company really made these copyright requests, because remember, he was having a hunch that it was some overzealous fans or something. He says, if it is really your company's DMCA/content ID request, then I can understand that. After all, my work is not acceptable to everyone. While I sent it to the community manager on the RT Discord server, I also sent it to fan projects email looking for a formal response, excuse me. And he says he read the content guidelines, etc., etc. And let's continue on. You get the idea here. Then gets a response from Rooster Teeth. Says, hi there. Thanks for reaching out to us. Rooster Teeth LLC is us, not a fake account. Can you send me a video you're having trouble with? Thanks. Then he says, after I knew this was RT's content ID, I have some psychological preparation. Oh, man. And I also have to try to solve this problem, like removing videos, add disclaimers, etc. But since I sent these emails, I haven't received more responses. So apparently he then reaches back out to Rooster Teeth. Since he didn't hear anything yet, he emails them and says, I don't think it's a good idea to submit a total of 213 video links, because again, that's how many claims he had apparently. So rather than sending 213 individual video links, he links his whole channel. He tries to say that, he understands that there might be some issues with his videos, but does this actually need to be handled in this manner, basically? Starts arguing that fair use is on his side, more or less, and gives some examples of that. Says he's not against the company's ability to protect the work or the IP. He just believes that this is actual, this is fan-made content in fair use, and maybe they can find a better way of resolving this, like adding a disclaimer or something of the sort. He also apologizes that the content may have had an adverse effect on the series. He says he's a fan of RWBY, and that's why he started to make content like this to begin with. Apparently, he still doesn't really get a response, and then he reaches out on Twitter, DMs, and says, "Hi, first of all, I'm sorry for my behavior. Twitter DM a few days ago, I asked RT fan projects about DMCA/content ID. He links the request, or rather, he, types the request there, the number. Says, I noticed that you included the name of your Twitter in your reply. What I wanted to ask is whether you have received my reply on email. I'm worried that I cannot catch up with your work hours because of the time zone. After all, I live on the other side of the earth. If you have received my reply, please let me know as soon as possible." And the response, as you can see, says, "I've received the reply and we're looking into it." And that's all they say. He says, "Thank you for your quick reply. I really hope we can find a solution that is good for both sides." And let's continue. Until July 7th, I received an email from Patreon now. Oh, wow. What the heck? I didn't even know this, actually. Game Wizard 2, good due diligence here. Wasn't aware of this Patreon part. Good work, man. Until July 7th, I received an email from Patreon asking me to remove what I have about RWBY on the Patreon webpage. This includes pictures, text, etc. The above description contains the logo, which puzzles me because I didn't directly post the RWBY logo on my Patreon until I thought of the possibility, as long as the 4 English characters RWBY are arranged in this order, will that be counted as their logo? Oh my gosh. So here's an email from Patreon now, it seems. "Hi there. We recently received a copyright claim for works you are making available on Patreon." Dude, what a mess this became on Patreon. Specifically, the claim comes from Rooster Teeth Productions, who owns the trademark rights and holds trademark registrations for RWBY being utilized in your post on Patreon. Now, full disclaimer for something that we're going to be getting into later on. I kind of did suspect that the Patreon might be an issue for this guy, but a lawyer buddy of mine kind of thought otherwise. And the lawyer buddy probably knows more about this than I do. But we'll talk about that more coming up in a moment. Let's get through the rest of this timeline. So there's a Patreon email. They say, "We ask that you remove all the copyrighted works from your Patreon page. If you are unable to remove them in a timely manner, Patreon will remove them. If you have trouble determining the extent of the potential infringement on your page, we may suspend your account until all claimed materials have been removed. Thank you in advance for understanding and for addressing this claim. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. All the best." And then explains what happened, I suppose. Says he removed the content the day he received the email. Asked Patreon to provide a statement from the copyright owner to make sure it's real. That's actually pretty smart for him to ask that. Says, "I have not received more notifications, and I also avoid using RWBY tags and character names for works after this. Instead, use emoji for name, etc. And add the disclaimer in the video." So I can't take an arbitrary stance because I haven't looked into this guy's work entirely. I don't want to really pick a side here. I'll add this much again about the lawyer thing. The lawyer buddy seems to be more on the side of not Rooster Teeth. He's more so siding with the creator on this one. And I'll talk about that more when we get to it. Just kind of, speaking my mind here as we cover relevant stuff. And here is where it gets very interesting, it seems. Because now they do send the DMCA notice. This is apparently the one from Patreon, excuse me. And I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's going to be a little redundant. We're going to read the one from the YouTube one. So it's pretty similar. It's DMCA stuff. If you want to read this, feel free to pause the video. Or, even better, you can go to Neandet and look at this whole report yourself. Everything here, you can go over it all and take a look at it all and save images or whatever you want to do. You know how it works. And then there's this. Here comes the cease and desist and the threats of litigation. Oh boy. It says, "Until today, I received this email from RT Official Fan Project. I asked many people. Many people suggested that I tell the story. I have to declare, I'm not the one who likes to watch RT on fire. I'm just a person who likes RWBY and enjoy its creation and character set. I don't deny that I feel strange about the characters in it, but based on the modern society idea of a virtual wife, I think that is normal. I didn't plan to refuse to talk to Rooster Teeth from the first day, even today, even after they did this to me." So you get the idea, more or less. I think he's just saying he's a fan. He doesn't want to see RT suffer. He wants RT to do well. He wants RWBY to do well. He's a fan. But they pushed him into this corner, and he is responding in kind. Here's the cease and desist, my friends. Let's take a look at what they say. "Cease and desist use of RWBY characters on MMD YouTube page on July 8th, 2020. To whom it may concern, this one we are going to read the whole thing, so strap in. Actually, I got to take my own advice. Give me a second to have a sip of coffee. Let's make that 2 sips. There's a lot to read here. Here we go. I'm writing on behalf of Rooster Teeth Productions, LLC. Rooster Teeth possesses valuable trade rights and holds trademark registrations for a series entitled RWBY in numerous jurisdictions under the registration number, I'm skipping that part, I'm going to skip all the numbers, Rooster Teeth also holds copyright registrations for RWBY under the numbers skipping, and skipping. Or actually, skippy, skipping, and skipped. There you go. That's really creative. There you go. Here we go. It has come to our attention that without Rooster Teeth permission, you have been using characters from RWBY. The characters and referencing RWBY and or Rooster Teeth in approximately 200 videos on your YouTube page located at this link. This unauthorized use of the characters in itself is sufficient to constitute an infringement of Rooster Teeth's copyright rights. But your violation is further exasperated by the fact that your use of Rooster Teeth's characters is explicit, as the video features the characters in very adult-themed clothing and situations. As such, your use of the Rooster Teeth characters also constitutes a tarnishment and infringement of the RWBY trademark, and by association, that Rooster Teeth brand as well. Now, guys, I want to try to be as objective as possible here. That's why I even in the beginning explained that, I acknowledged, rather, that RT didn't give the guy a strike. They apparently just claimed everything, so they aren't, striking the channel down. Imagine getting 200 strikes. That would be way worse even than the claims. Don't get me wrong, the claims are bad too. I'm just trying to be fair. And in being as fair as I can, I try to empathize a little bit with Rooster Teeth here. But the thing is, man, there's so much fan art with mature themes and other channels, especially fan art though, all over the internet. Why doesn't Rooster Teeth do anything about those works? Like, why only this guy? That's where you're going to have an issue. Rooster Teeth, if you want to go down this route, if you really want to, you're going to have to go after everybody, no? Otherwise, it's not fair. It doesn't really seem fair. And do you really want to be going after these people? I mean, Rooster Teeth, you can ask the RWBY community this, and most people will agree. One of the best things that RWBY still has going for it is the fan art, is the fan fictions, the fan art, the fan fictions, the community projects that people submit and stuff. That is one of the things keeping RWBY alive right now. Maybe the biggest thing keeping it alive, to be honest. So is this really a good approach, Rooster Teeth? I don't know. Let's continue on. Actually, before we do, let me roll back to this area because I was speaking to that lawyer buddy of mine. And yeah, it's Ricada. Shouts out to Ricada. We'll go over his tweet next. So basically, here's what happened. This guy tagged me on Twitter. The MMD guy, the YouTuber here, he tagged me on Twitter saying people basically suggested for him to @ me. And I told him I was looking into it. I sent Ricada the tweet. First I asked Ricada if he'd be interested in looking into this story at all. He said he would take a look. So I sent him the tweet. And he more or less seemed to side, as I mentioned, with the creator, not with Rooster Teeth. I pointed out a specific area that I found odd, and Ricada agreed that this was pretty odd. That area is right here, where they said, this unauthorized use of the characters in itself is sufficient to constitute an infringement of Rooster Teeth's copyright rights. So in my opinion, yes, very odd, because to my understanding, you don't need, quote, authorization for something to be fair use. And Ricada pretty much agreed with that. He said more or less that fair use is the antithesis of authorization. So that's a very weird argument for them to make, in my humble opinion. And I don't want to misrepresent Ricada. This is to my recollection of, what we talked about last night about this situation. Continuing on, they say, but your violation is further exacerbated by the fact that the characters are used in this mature way. You get the idea. We covered that. We submitted a YouTube takedown requests for these videos, and in your response to our request, you referred to Rooster Teeth's content usage guidelines, which dictate the ways which fans can use Rooster Teeth intellectual property in their own content. However, you omitted the fact that such content usage guidelines, for the record, to my understanding as well, the content usage guidelines by Rooster Teeth is pretty much just what they want you to follow. I'm not saying it's necessarily backed by law or not. I'm just saying, there is a difference between what the legal fair use is and what Rooster Teeth's opinion of their content usage guidelines are. You might be able to argue that at least. So just some food for thought. They say, and state that those terms equally apply to how Rooster Teeth intellectual property can be used. Per the RT terms, you may not post or distribute content that contains mature themes. Clearly, your use of RT characters falls into this category, and as such is a wrongful use that would not be permissible under the content usage guidelines. And again, I just have to ask how much merit those guidelines really have if hypothetically the law claims otherwise, right? Hypothetically. Continuing, they say, we respectfully request that you immediately remove, discontinue, and permanently refrain from any and all use of the characters and any RT intellectual property in any and all your accounts and social media. If you fail to comply with the aforementioned demands within 10 days, we will have no choice but to pursue all legal courses of action. They say this letter is not a complete rectification of the facts and legal arguments related to this matter, and nothing contained in this letter waives any rights or remedies which our team may have in connection with the matter, all of which are expressly reserved. Please provide written confirmation that the infringing content has been removed and further use of such infringing content has been discontinued via email no later than 10 days after the date of this letter. Sincerely, Joe Clary, head of animation. Why are they having head of animation send this, not an attorney, though? That's a little odd to me. Head of animation, Rooster Teeth Productions, LLC, 1901. I would imagine a C&D would be better made by an attorney? No? And to be fair, an attorney could have wrote this up, but why have head of animation send it? I don't know. Weird. And that takes us to Ricada's tweet, who says, hey, at Rooster Teeth, you barely have a functioning company. Why are you attacking your remaining fans over what appears to be clearly fair use? How can a company famous for using Halo characters to create content be this idiotic? And there you go, my friends. That's pretty much the news up to the latest thing. I did send a DM to WSMMD last night asking for him to DM me any updates to the situation if any came out, and as of recording this video, I have yet to be DM'd from him, so I believe that's where this is at. So I will end this video here, but I hope you've enjoyed this coverage. Pretty thorough stuff, man. I didn't realize it would be such a long video, but I truly hope you all enjoyed. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you do like the work that we are doing here, you can support us simply by liking the video, subscribing, commenting, sharing. All of that helps greatly. Feel free to also check out our website, nyannet.com. That will help us out too. If you want to take it further, consider becoming a Patreon via Patreon. I always mess that one up. Or a channel member via the join button right here on YouTube next to the subscribe button. Also, if you like PayPal, we have a safe integrated PayPal button on the website at the very bottom of the homepage there at nyannet.com. Finally, again, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you in the next one.